on, Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Bilotta. I'm happy to be here this afternoon to present to you a topic on personal branding and how it can be used for career management and in your job search. So we're going to discuss those things and then talk about some tips on how you can define and market your own personal brand. First, just a little bit about me. I'm a Drexel grad, undergrad in '77 in finance, MBA in '84, and I spent close to 20 years working in industry in various accounting and finance positions, and then decided to totally switch careers and got into executive search and HR consulting with a former companion of mine, and then ended up becoming an owner of a resource development company, and have been doing this for almost as long as I practiced finance. The presentation that I'm making today, you all can go to my own personal website at christopherbilotta.com, and you'll have the ability to download this presentation. So first I want to talk about the difference between a product and a brand. These two terms, a lot of times people look at them the same way, but there's some distinct differences, and it's important to understand them, and that sets the foundation for how you can develop your own brand. First, a product is made or manufactured, while a brand is made up of trusts and relationships. A product is a value delivered, while a brand is a personality. We all understand that a product is sold by a merchant or a company. A brand is actually bought by a customer. A product can typically be easily copied by a competitor, while a brand is unique. I think a picture is worth 1,000 words when we talk about these terms. And if we look at several recognizable images, I think it'll give a good idea of really the difference between a product and a brand. On the left-hand side of this slide, you can see some very recognizable products. The first one, Gatorade. But then if you look to the right, that is really the logo, or what connotes the brand about Gatorade. And when you see that, typically think of the tagline that goes along with that brand in terms of Gatorade is it in you? The second line, a Nike sneaker. The famous swish, the logo of Nike, which connotes to you, just do it. And finally, the ubiquitous iPhone. But on the right-hand side, the logo of Apple, which communicates what really makes Apple unique in terms of think differently. So when you look at these images, hopefully they give you a good feel for the difference between a product and a brand. Personal branding, the term, actually was coined back in 1997 by Tom Peters, a famous management author. And he wrote an article for Fast Company magazine that he titled "The Brand Called You." And in that article, he wrote that regardless of age, position, or the business that any of us happen to be in, each one of us has to understand the importance of branding. Basically, we are the CEOs of our own company. And our most important job as CEO is to be the head marketer for the brand that's called you. In fact, if you go on and Google the term personal branding, you'll get over 1 million hits. But going back to 97 is when it was first coined in terms of what it meant for an individual. There's a lot of definitions for personal branding. I came across one that I thought really captured the essence of what it means. And here on this slide, what I believe is the easiest and the most simple to understand is that personal branding is achieving your personal and professional goals by differentiating yourself and being able to articulate your unique value through a consistent message. Let's take that definition and break it down into its components. The first part, achieving personal and professional goals. We all, or each one of us, should have goals that we set, whether they are personal, professional, or both. But there's absolutely no benefit to setting goals if you're not trying to strive to reach them. Defining and creating your personal brand can help provide that extra step to help you reach those goals. The second part of the definition, differentiating yourself by articulating your unique value. In terms of the job market, your personal brand can be a deciding factor on whether you receive that promotion or whether you're hired by a new company. If people don't view your personal brand as something valuable and or unique, then really you offer no compelling reason to be considered for that promotion or for that new job. What's vital is that your brand stands out from the competition. And the third part of that definition is being able to communicate your brand through a consistent message. A successful personal brand is one that is consistent. If it isn't, you really run the risk of confusing your target audience. And once that happens, your credibility can suffer and you won't necessarily be taken seriously. If you confuse your audience, you lose your audience. And if you think about how that applies to products in the market, I mean, we're inundated with commercials, taglines, features and benefits. But if they change over time, you start to become confused about what that product really delivers. And it's the same for our own personal brand. It's got to be consistent, and it's got to be delivered in a message that's consistent to your audience. Some keys about your own personal brand. A personal brand is not artificially created or manufactured. And while we saw pictures of logos and there's taglines that go with them, there's much more behind that. It's not just a picture, or it's not just a couple of words. What a personal brand is not also is it's not self-centered, it's not self-indulgent. It is you, but it's not necessarily all about you. What a personal brand is something intrinsic. It's authentic, and it's really individual. It's unique to you. Your personal brand is different from the person next to you or people that you're competing with in the marketplace. So it's really important to understand that your brand is unique, and that's what makes you different. As Peter said, we all have brands worthy of remark. Basically, your brand helps you stand out in a crowd. Whether you're an administrative assistant, the president of a company, whatever it might be, whatever role you're in, you have a personal brand that really, again, is unique and sets you apart so that you can stand out. So how do we go about in terms of defining your personal brand? Because for a lot of us, this is a new concept. And you wonder, how do I do it? Well, it really is people's perception of you. What your personal brand is what others think of you, how they view you in terms of your strengths, your skills, your personal traits, your passions, what drives you, what motivates you, what gets you up in the morning, and most importantly, how you're able to add value, specifically in terms of the job that you perform. I'm sorry, here I got a little ahead of the slides. Just bear with me. So, in defining your personal brand, how can we go about that? Well, there's a very simple exercise that you can do, which will help you understand how people perceive you. Because in many respects, while you may not have thought about your own brand, it has been defined to some extent. And this kind of branding experiment can help you understand what your brand is. So I suggest if you select a group of up to 50 people, and these can be coworkers, associates, peers, clients, friends, but select a group that you believe will share honestly with you some important information. And then ask them to write down 3 words, 3 adjectives necessarily that come to mind that they feel best describe you. And then you should do the same thing. You'll be really surprised at some of the feedback that you get, and particularly how it stacks up with what the 3 words that you've listed. And basically what you're doing is matching your internal brand, what you believe about yourself, how you perceive yourself, to the external brand that you've projected. And the question is, do others perceive your brand as you do? Hopefully, there is much in common when you get this feedback. But there may be differences, and there may be things that pop up that are not necessarily strengths, but they may be opportunities for you to turn those into strengths. For instance, it might come back where somebody says you're aggressive. And, aggressive has a certain connotation and may not be positive in all circumstances. But you can turn that into something that is a strength. Maybe that aggressiveness is a competitive nature. It's assertiveness, looking to do what you need to do to get the job done. So it's taking these words, these adjectives, these descriptors that people are feeding back to you, breaking them down into maybe some component parts, maybe how they describe you professionally, describe you personally, strengths, hard strengths that you bring to a particular job. But this is all the beginning of how you can start to craft and create your personal brand. Now, as you do that, one of the things that you have to be cognizant of is when you're out in the market looking for a product, in today's world, it'd be very unlikely that you're going to buy something from a company that doesn't have a website. And typically, what all of us do before we buy something, we're out Googling it to do some research, to find out about that product, its strengths, its features, its benefits, what people are saying. And you can be sure that employers are doing the same thing. And as a recruiter, I can tell you that when I'm recruiting individuals, I'm doing the same thing. I'm Googling candidates to find out all I can about them. So it's important that you're not what we call a digital question mark. What you want when people Google your name is that positive results are going to come up in that search. I've got a question here that is there any way to remove negative Google reviews? And I'll get into that in a little bit, because that is a very important thing. If there are negative stories or negative articles about you out there, it's important that you get those off that first page of search. But I'll talk about that in a minute. So it is critical that when somebody does Google you, they're going to see positive things. So it's all about taking that brand that you've created and transferring it into a solid online presence. And there's a thing called a Google quotient, and I'll show you how you can actually calculate your Google quotient to find out how you fall on a digital scale. And there's several buckets that each one of us would fall into when somebody does a Google search. First one, being digitally distinct. And what that means is that there are plenty of positive features, plenty of positive articles, notations about you, and that the volume of them are fairly significant, so that you've got a pretty strong online presence, and it is predominantly positive. Dabbling. You're online. People can find some things about you, but it's not necessarily a full presence, or the volume isn't as much as might be versus another person. Disastrous would be all negative articles or negative descriptions or some type of negative notations about you. And of course, those can run a gamut. Maybe it went from a personal bankruptcy to comments being made about you in a work situation, or other things about your experience or personal life that really are extremely negative. Digitally dissed would be if people are making comments about you, again, in a negative manner. And the last one, disguised, is where a recruiter, hiring manager, or anyone would be hard-pressed to find anything about you online. There just isn't, you don't really have a presence. So taking your personal brand and using it in terms of social media and developing an online presence, one of the things that we've espoused is developing your own personal website. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, you're able to download this PowerPoint if you go to my own personal website. So one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you've got your own domain name. And I see that, what if someone with the same name has something negative about them, where recruiters may mistake you for them, is a question that was asked. That is where, again, I'm going to get into how you can drive results, positive results about you, and move other negative results down off the first or second page of the search results. So going back to developing your online brand, one of the first things you want to do is establish your domain name. And then think about developing your own personal website. Obviously today, social networks, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and others out there play a big role in helping you develop an online presence. When we're talking about how it relates to your career and job search, I really believe that LinkedIn is the definitive social network that you should be on and should utilize fairly extensively. The thing about LinkedIn is that it's a 100% professional network, as opposed to Facebook, for instance, which is trying to kind of straddle the line between personal and professional. And in my opinion, that's a tough act to do. That's why I really discourage people from using Facebook in any way professionally, and instead using LinkedIn as their tool from a professional standpoint. Another way that you can develop results and establish an online presence is to develop your own blog, where you're regularly putting out information that may be of interest in terms of your own industry, your own type of functional job, or commenting on certain things within the business world that would be of interest to people and help draw a following that really helps demonstrate the type of value that you can bring or your knowledge in a particular area. And likewise, conversing or commenting on other people's blogs can help establish your online presence. And by the quality of the material that either you blog or comment on, it can help reinforce your own personal brand. So when you're marketing your brand, you've got to be cognizant that everything you do matters. And that gets back to what we talked about in that opening definition of personal branding. You've got to be consistent. Remember what we said, that if your message is muddled or inconsistent, then you tend to confuse your audience, and you can lose your audience. In this case, if we're talking in a job search standpoint, a hiring manager or company can easily be confused about, who you are or what value you deliver. So in marketing, it's just as important to be focused on style as well as substance. Everything you do matters. How you present yourself, how you look. They're all things that people take note of. Another thing in terms of marketing your brand is that word of mouth marketing is key. The more people that you can get who are referring you, who recommend you, third parties, that is much more powerful than touting your own horn, obviously. So it's important to nurture your network. Use your contacts wisely. And what I believe is kind of the golden rule of networking is that it's better to give than to get. And that's how, in the end, you will get. If you're able to provide value, help other people, then they will be much more inclined to return the favor. So all these things are critical to how you market your brand. What are the benefits of personal branding? Well, first, it really enhances your own self-awareness. If you go back to the exercise I talked about with the 50 people and asking them for those descriptor words, it really gives you the opportunity to look inside and kind of do your own assessment and help you enhance your own self-awareness about who you are and what value you bring. Another benefit of personal branding is that it clarifies your goals. Remember, again, that definition. We talked about professional as well as personal goals. And in developing your brand and your value, it helps you define and really hone in on what your goals should be. Obviously, by creating a personal brand, you create more visibility and presence for yourself. You put yourself out in the market and have other people come to know who you are and see what you bring in terms of that value. Obviously, your own personal brand being unique and intrinsic to you helps differentiate you. In today's world, as I'm sure many of you know, when you apply for a job, a company is being inundated with resumes. What makes you stand out? Well, it really comes down to your personal brand. Because, as we said, it's unique and it differentiates you from all your competitors. It also puts you in control. You define your brand. It has helped you become more self-aware, and to some extent, it puts you in control of your own destiny. Two of the tangible things that come out of a personal brand is that if you get that promotion, if you get that new job, then hopefully that's creating more wealth for you. It's something that, in the end, can translate into more dollars, more financial staying power, more chance at advancement, career advancement. These are all the key benefits of what a personal brand means for you. So what would be some of the next steps to help you create and define your personal brand, and how you can use that to further your career or help you get that next job? Well, one thing that I would suggest is if you go to one of our websites, jobmetrics.com, and look at our blog, there is a lot of information there to kind of educate yourself on personal branding, how to use it, what are some of the keys to leveraging your brand, and how you can marry it with social media to really make yourself an effective job seeker. We talked about calculating your own Google quotient. And if you go to this website, online, idcalculator.com, it's a free site that will take you through a short questionnaire and then actually calculate your Google quotient. And that will give you the ability to have a baseline or foundation of what your online presence is, and then what to do to increase it. Going back to the question that was asked about removing negative Google reviews. Well, unfortunately, once something is up on the internet, it's there pretty much forever. And if it's coming up on a first page of Google results, the only way to get rid of it or to move it down is to create more positive type of reviews. And that goes back to some of the things I had mentioned before about maybe developing your own personal website, writing articles or white papers, developing your own blog, commenting on other people's blogs. The more things that you can put out in terms of a positive nature, then those are the things that will move up the line on a Google search and push other things. And of course, this would be in terms of recent activity, and would push older and negative type of reviews down off the first, second, maybe third page of your Google search, depending on how much material is out there. Typically, recruiters or hiring managers, they're certainly going to look at the first page. They may look at a second page of Google results, but going beyond 3, 4, 5 pages is typically a little bit more unusual. So the more positive things that you can put out online, that'll push those negative results much farther down in a Google search. As I say, unfortunately, those things are out there forever, but you can control where they show up on a search by putting more positive things out there. The next thing is once you've calculated your Google quotient, you've educated yourself about it, it's to create that brand. Go through the exercise that we talked about and really craft what your brand is. And remembering that a large part of it is people's perceptions already. If there's a disconnect between what you believe your brand is and what others or how others are perceiving it, you need to adjust for that. Because really for most of us, our brand is established already. So if we feel that it's not matching up what we believe internally, then we need to reconcile that and be comfortable with what people's perceptions are. As I said, take any negatives and try to turn them into positives. The next thing is to look at your social media profiles that are already established. If you're not on LinkedIn, you should be. And if you should look at your profile and build that up to a 100% number. Have a photo on. Make sure that all the sections are completed. It's just not good to just have a profile and not use it proactively. If you're going to be on LinkedIn, it really makes sense to use the site in a proactive manner. Not only making connections, but using joining groups that are of interest or within your industry, and then participating in those groups, using the discussion forums, the Q&A, to show it gives you a forum to demonstrate your value. For instance, if you're a subject matter expert in a particular field, look for groups that share the same interests and put yourself out there, answer questions, reference articles. This will, again, help build your brand where people come to see you as someone who can really deliver value and is somebody that is unique. It's a way for potential hiring managers, certainly recruiters, to come to know who you are and see how you are different and how you're unique. We talked about, at a minimum, registering your own domain name. And that's can be easily done by going to GoDaddy.com and registering your name. Ideally, you want your domain name to be your name, but where someone had asked about an uncommon name or maybe even a common name, say if it's John Smith, then you may need to switch up, use a middle initial, do something to differentiate. But when you go to GoDaddy, you'll find whether your name or what you want to establish as your domain name is already out there. And if so, you'll have to come up with a variation to make it unique. Whether or not you feel that you're ready to establish your own personal website or not, it still makes sense to at least register your domain name so you have it. And when you're ready to move to a personal website, you've already got the domain name. As we talked about, build content. Anything that you can put out that is an example of your knowledge, your expertise in an area, that helps develop your digital identity. It increases your Google quotient, and it communicates to people the type of value that you can deliver. Lastly, as mentioned before, I really believe that a personal website will be the one central place that all of us will be showcasing who we are and what our brand is. There are many ways to develop a site, from free services up through working specifically with website designers. But I really believe that we're headed toward the day when you won't even have a resume or be submitting a resume for a job. What you'll do is send a link to that hiring manager or that recruiter to your own website. And there basically will be brand central. Everything about you will be on that website, including your resume, your any papers, your achievements, your links to your social media sites, but everything will be right there in one place. So if you're contemplating developing your site, I'd say don't wait. When it happens, I think it'll be like flipping a switch. We're not there yet, but the time will come when the personal website will be the tool that all of us use. Just as think about developing a blog. Again, this is a great way to communicate, to send to the market the kind of things that differentiate you. And not just, while I understand a blog can be a real commitment, you can also comment on other people's blogs, as we mentioned before, and it's a way to showcase your knowledge and your expertise. So it really comes down to these three things. And if you think back to that opening slide where we had the pictures of the various products and brands, I'm using those taglines to say to you, from a personal branding standpoint, one, is it in you? And the answer is yes. As we said, each one of us has our own personal brand. As you create your brand and develop it, think about what makes you different, what makes you unique. And then finally, don't wait. Just do it. Put your brand out there. Use it as a marketing tool in any job search, career management, to help you get where you want to go. There's no reason to wait. This is a hot topic. It's something that is a tool that will help you advance in your career and bring you the benefits that we talked about. Are there any questions? I've got a question from Sarah, who mentions that she had a strong personal brand that was working well for her, both internally and externally. Then life happened, and she had to stop doing and being and adding the unique value that she was used to delivering. Any ideas when consistency over time is not an option? Well, I'm not sure, Sarah, that I completely understand your question. I do get that you may have had to make a switch, but it still comes back to building on where your expertise is, where the value is that you can bring to your audience. And again, consistency is important because just like on any product, when we're not sure of what the features are or the benefits, then we get confused and we won't buy the product, and we'll look for something else. We'll go to a competitor, and that's what we want to try to avoid as you communicate a brand, your own brand. Consistency is really important. Are there any other questions? Sure. How do you market your website brand? Well, again, that would be with a website. I strongly suggest that you have a blog. That is a way to really get people to find you, to put material out that, again, is either showcases your subject matter expertise or showcases your knowledge in any particular area. Bringing content to people, delivering some type of value. Again, even in a job search, what you want to do is demonstrate what you can bring. That's what people are interested in. They don't want to know what you do, but they do want to know how you do it and what the bottom line results are going to be. So if you've got if you establish a website, one way then to start to market it is be out there with a blog, comment, drive people to it, where they can find you. Comment on any discussion groups where people start to see your name and see your website address, and then click through to find out more about you. Another question about direct difference in bringing your business on Facebook versus LinkedIn. Again, my biggest concern with Facebook is that it's still a hybrid between personal and professional, and so you've got to be very careful in terms of what personal information is out there on Facebook, and if it's not consistent with what you're trying to project professionally, that's a problem. Again, we get back to consistency and how it might confuse people. I really am a proponent of using LinkedIn 100% because it is totally professional. While there are some people on there that don't treat it as such, it's a very, very small minority. And it's looked at as a 100% professional network. And so I think that's where that's the best tool to really market yourself and your brand. There's no hybrid activity. It's all focused on your career, your job, and it doesn't blur the lines. And I think that's very important. Are there any other questions? Again, if you want to get a copy of this presentation, you can go to my website, which is www.christopherbilotta.com. Well, thank you, everyone. It was my pleasure to make this presentation. If you've got any questions or need any further information, please contact me at my website. Look me up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help you any way I can. Thanks again.